Hey YouTube, today we're down in the Elves Workshop because in this episode we're taking a look at the 2020 LEGO Star Christmas set. Hey guys, and welcome to Brick Talk TV. Terry here, and in this episode we're looking at something a little special. We're going to be taking a look at this LEGO set, this set number 40022020, which is a free set that was given to all LEGO staff for the Christmas 2020. It consists of 919 parts and these are spread over 8 bags. Inside the box there is a pullout which covers the purpose of the set, which is to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the LEGO Education range. Along with the 8 bags, you'll also find 4 instruction books, as there's a book for each of the sections of the model. So let's flip over to the actual model itself now, and I'll walk you through quickly the build experience. So this is the model then. So where you start the build experience is this end of the model, and you work your way through across this way. So you start with this Christmas tree scene, then you move through to a worker building some toys, then through to a female elf who's passing the presents from the workbench to the conveyor belt, and then finally you build this conveyor belt section here. All of these are separately built and they connect through Technic pins, and the mechanism at the back all connects together to create an overall mechanism that you can operate from one hand crank at this end. You can actually see a live stream of this that we recorded before on this channel, where you can see how this build comes together step by step. And I'll stick a card up here and I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested to actually watch the whole 2-hour live stream where you can see it come to life. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to split this up into the different sections, and we'll talk through each individual section step by step, looking at the features and the mechanism that sits behind it, and talk about what LEGO part it's actually celebrating. So this is the first part of the model that you build. And as I mentioned, here's a separate booklet for this particular part of the build. And if you open it up inside, you'll actually see that this particular section is actually celebrating the gear wheel. And so that's what the focus is of how this mechanism works. And if I just make this one work, as this is going to be the main area where the whole mechanism works, there's a hand crank here. And you can see as you twist that, the Christmas tree rotates around, and there's a train that sits underneath or clipped to the tree, and it rotates around. Now I found this quite reminiscent to the gift with purchase that you got in 2019, where you had the train running around the Christmas tree. But what's clever about this is that the mechanism for moving this actual tree is actually built into the fireplace. So in the back here, you can see that this tree is made up of different gear wheels, and that's how you build up the leaves. And those actually interconnect with another gear wheel that's stuck inside the chimney breast here. And then if you rotate round here to the back mechanism, you can see that we've got the gear wheels here that are turned by this crank here, which turns this big wheel here, which ultimately turns these wheels horizontally. And this gear wheel at the top here, which is the same type as the Christmas tree ones, connect together through the wall, and they intertwine into the gear wheels that actually make up this tree. And by doing that, as you turn the handle, you then get this tree rotating round. The train at the bottom is actually then just connected to the trunk of the tree using some clips. Actually rotates in an opposite direction to the main tree, but then you get this motion of the train moving around the bottom of the tree. You've got some nice detail here as well. You've got an elf figure, which is similar to the elf figures that you saw inside the elf clubhouse model, which I've reviewed separately and also done a live stream. So I'll stick a card up here for the review and put some links in the description below for both the review and the live stream if you're interested to see that in more detail. But the minifigure is actually unique in this instance. It's got a different face. It's actually got the sort of the original looking minifigure face with just 2 eyes and a smiley face. So he's sitting on the mantelpiece here. And then this little ornament over here, which I'm not too sure what it's supposed to represent, is sat there as well on top of the mantelpiece. There is a detail of some fire, which you can't really see very well because the tree's in the way. But that kicks off your build. And this is a nice little construction. You build, as you'd imagine, from the base up. The base is just a series of plates and some bricks. So there's no base plate or anything like that. You put a little holder in there for the mechanism to rotate. So there's a turntable at the bottom here. And you start building the back section up with the tree as well. So then you get this effect here. So that's the first section, which is a nice introduction to how the rest of the set moves. So let's move over now to the next section. So in this next section, we're actually starting to build an elf that's working at a workbench. And you can see here that he's hammering and he's also painting the toys that are coming out. So these are the toys in the front here. He's got a hammer in his hand. And this sort of paint wheel here is depicting a rolling brush for painting the toys. And so on the this particular section of the model is celebrating the cams. And if you rotate round, the cams are situated in the back here. There's a mechanism where you turn this brown Technic pin here, and that rotates the cams round, which ultimately bang up the mechanisms that are controlling the arms in the front. So if I rotate this for you now, you can see as I rotate that round, the elf's hands are banging up and down, giving a depiction that he's actually working on this, on the toys. You'll also notice that the pendulum under the clock is swinging side to side, and that's done also through the mechanism that's hitting in the background some parts that just flick the pendulum up and down as you rotate it round. You've got some nice detail at the back of a shelf with some different paints on. I've even used a toothpiece here on the side to depict some paint dripping down, which is nice. Obviously you've got the clock on the wall as well. The table is nicely built up. They've used some arch pieces here and some scroll pieces just to give some detail. So they've not avoided that. You can also see on the floor in the back that the paint has dripped down from the shelf on the floor. So that's a nice touch. And it's really clever the way that you build up this face using different parts as well. And even the ears, where there's another sort of toothpiece there that's coming up. And you'll notice throughout this set as well, when you're building these large scale elves, that the top of their hats are actually green frogs, which is also a nice little touch to give you that sort of pointed ends to the hat going on there. And so as you rotate that, as you can see, these arms are being flicked up and down to give that illusion of them working. The highlight really for me on this one was the elf build and his little legs hanging over the seat. Really loved the way that his nose and his beard came together on this one, so that's a great one. You'll also see on the sides here, you've got some Technic pieces. So this is where those Technic pins connect into each section. And from one section to another, the axles just connect through. So this one, as you can see here, this area is going to connect to the next section. And so there's an axle rod that will just clip into that. So that's how you get a connection through the whole piece. So that's the second section. So let's bring over the third section and we'll take a look at what happens there. So this third section then is actually a bit unique because it's on a slight corner. So there's a slight bend to the back. So the way you build up the base to allow for that and also then get some hinges going to make the wall bend is quite an interesting part. And what this section of the build is actually celebrating is the universal joint, which is sat around the back here. And anybody who's built the roller coaster or even the ghost house of recent times will have come across these pieces here, which allow you to connect axles or sort of rod pieces over different angles, but still being able to get some sort of rotation. So as you rotate that, you can see that part there still manages to rotate even round corners. And also there's lots of gear wheels being used here as well, just to get the mechanism. So if you go around to the front here, what you've got here is that this female elf, which again is a lovely build in its own right, just to build this nice face and the detail of the legs and the dress she's wearing. She's actually just rotating side to side and passing this present from what would be the toy maker or the elf making the toys at the workbench through to the next section, which we'll cover in a second. And as you rotate it here, you can see that she just moves back and forth with the same present in her hand. Her arms sort of flick up and down as she's doing that as well to give this depiction that she's moving the present from side to side. You've also got the detail of a little mouse that's managed to get into the picture here, and this little robot here, which I guess is picking things up. I'm not too clear on what the robot is in this context, but seems to be picking up things maybe that are dropped, or is just helping the function of the operation here for the elves. And so yeah, you just rotate this round and then that flicks the present back and forth like that. So she's just helping load up the next section. So that is a really nice change because it's on an angle compared to these flat ones that have gone before. And the universal joint is a nice little use there as well. So moving on to the last section of the model. This section actually seemed to be most interesting from the pictures, at least in the instruction booklet. And as you can see here, what this one goes at the end, and this is actually the conveyor belt for all the presents being loaded on from the workshop, which I guess are going through maybe to Santa's sleigh to be loaded on for his Christmas Eve trip. But what this one is celebrating is the mechanical belt. So you can see here that you've got these belt pieces here, which have the presents stuck onto them using some Technic pins. And you create this belt that rotates around. So as I spin this round here, you can see that the belt is going through and the presents are just sort of coming around the bottom, coming back through again. So it's a continual flow of presents, but gives this illusion that the presents are going through to be loaded onto Santa's sleigh. You've also got at the top here this nice little separate build of an elf that's sitting on top, and he just rests on top here like that, and he kind of gets a little flick from the presents as he goes through, so he moves throughout as you rotate the presents through. Again, lovely bit of detail. He's using arch for his legs. He's got these little curly shoes going in different directions using some handle pieces. He's got a nice expression of shock on his mouth, and a nose and a couple of ears. Again, they've used those sort of tooth pieces for the ears and a frog piece for the top of his hat. And he literally just clips on like that. There's an elastic band here as well, which just rotates this piece around as the conveyor belt spins. And there's a couple of wheels underneath that helps all of this mechanism come together. And so that goes through like that. So what we'll do now is I'm just going to connect all of these pieces together, and you can see how the whole model works together from end to end. So here we have the model back together again, and as you can see, which I didn't point out in the last part, was there's a unique printed panel here at the front, which is commemorative of the 40 years of these parts, as I mentioned, for LEGO education. And so once these are all connected, you've now got this main crank at the end, and if I rotate it here the right way, you can see it all together rotating. So you've got a nice Christmas scene, which is kind of, I suppose, showing the destination for where the presents are going to end up, through to the workshop, through to the female elf who's sorting the presents out, through to the conveyor belt that's loading up. And you'll notice this elf is bumping up and down as the presents go through, as he gets hit by it as well. This is a really nice little set. It really shows off how the mechanics can come together and how you can build these sort of scenes using these pieces. And I've shown a couple of people this at work through Zoom calls, and they've all been quite impressed, quite like the level of detail that's gone into this. And I'm sure that the LEGO staff, when they received this, probably felt the same way as well. At the time of recording, I don't work for LEGO, so I actually managed to get hold of this set through eBay. And so I'm not sure if it's a regular thing where staff always get a Christmas present, or whether it's just to commemorate certain anniversaries or milestones. But I did see on Twitter a couple of employees that I follow had received this present, and so just before Christmas I went onto eBay and I managed to track down somebody who was selling it. I think they're quite expensive now. I think this cost me around £150 plus postage on top, so it wasn't a cheap set, but I was really taken by the level of detail, and I think it's just a really lovely little set to display. So I'm going to probably stick this in my usual display behind me now on my shelves in one of the Christmas areas, and I'm going to probably reorganise the shelves in the background just to make some room for it. I imagine also you could probably connect a motor to it, but it probably would spin too fast, and I kind of like the tactile way that if you spin this thing, it actually takes you back to sort of olden toys where you would have manually operated them. I also like the fact that these models are separate, so you can separate them out, and you could probably reconfigure them in different combinations if you wanted to, or if you didn't have the display space to fit all four next to each other, you could probably display it over different shelves and things like that. So it's also a great one. So I'm sure that I'm sure everybody greatly received these at Christmas, and hopefully all the LEGO staff enjoyed them as well. As I mentioned, I did do a live stream of this, so I will stick a card up here again if you're interested to watch that, and you can see how each of these came together and the whole build experience itself. And it's probably worthwhile, if you're interested in these kind of things, checking out eBay around Christmas time to see if any of the staff are selling them. I know, for instance, previously they've done a sort of a nutcracker, quite a large sort of nutcracker model as well. But all these things, as you can imagine, because they're only limited, command quite a high price. So do be careful, and my advice would be probably to get in there early if you do. So hopefully you found this review interesting. If you did, do hit that like button, smash subscribe with the bell notification turned on to be notified of future reviews we do around LEGO models and maybe LEGO staff gifts in the future. And until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then.